but it improves upon our quality of life. And not only of our lives today, but it should also impact on future generations. So we may finish all the gold mined in Obuasi, but then the lifestyle, the gold that we took from Obuasi should improve upon our lives today, and we should make sure that it improves upon the lives of future generations, even when there's no mine in Obuasi. And that's what we'll be looking at. So in our context, it's safe extraction. And when I say safe extraction, I mean environmental friendly and all the things that we can talk about. So safe and environmental friendly form of extracting our deposits. It should be economic. And I think one of the reasons why sometimes the mines in most of our communities in recent times is that most of the mines are not profitable. Only few are making profit on their balance sheets. Only few are making cash flow. And so if the man or the shareholders are not making money, it will be difficult for us to see the sustainability of it. And then obviously there should benefit the shareholders, as is linked to the second point. There should be a benefit to the host community. There should be a benefit to the whole country, and most importantly, benefit for generations to come. And monumental projects. In 2014, Mr. Stephen Ajima made a lecture, and he elaborated a lot of monumental projects. And he indicated clearly that in California, we had mines over there. But now if you go, they are not mining. But what have they left? All the jeans that we wear was supposedly to be the pants or the jeans that the miners were supposed to use for work. And so we've got a jeans industry in California. And that's what I mean by monumental projects. Can we have something similar in our mining communities? Now, we are looking at the stakeholders that have to be involved. The list is not exhaustive, but I'm just picking few for the sake of discussion. The government and the regulatory agencies, the mining companies, the educational and research institutions, traditional rulers and the mining communities, the district assemblies and local government, the workers' union, the management itself. When I talk about the management itself, I mean the staff, and then the NGOs and civil organizations. All of us have got a part to play to make sure that mining is sustainable. And as we talk about sustainability, just remember that the definition is that it improves on my life today, and it improves on the life of generations to come. How do you do it? We need appropriate legislation and homemade policies. It looks like we are importing a lot of policies that are not sustainable. And we have to have homemade policies and appropriate legislation. And I'll take a typical example, and I want you to think. Where on earth should we be digging for quarries in Western region when there are pits or there are wisdoms? I'm not talking about the wisdoms which are acid generating. I'm talking about clean rocks that could be used for construction. And then we spend money, dollars, to rehabilitate these rocks. In fact, if the country belonged to me and I'm a policymaker, I would take that bond money. I said, give me that money you're going to spend on the rehabilitation, and I'll sell the rock as well. It's not as easy as I'm saying, but it means that we have to put our thinking cap on, look at which rocks are good. Obviously, you can't carry rock from Tapa to Cape Coast. It's possible though, looking at economics. But obviously, all the construction around Tapa, you look at the geotechnical issues of the rock, etc. But my point is that currently, it's like a flat policy. Rehabilitate all wisdoms. We can get a quarry industry in Takwa without the further destruction of the environment. That's just a typical example of what I'm talking about, appropriate legislation home meat policies other than importing. And I worked on a mine in West Africa where the CEO went to the government and said, okay, this is a waste dump. I can just put grass on it. You've got a vast land, a desert. I've got waste dump on it. I've done my studies, and I need 20 million to rehabilitate the waste dump, shape it, put a dose on it, shape it. Why can't we just put grass on it and trees on it, just at the current configuration, without spending extra money? And then the 20 million, the two of us sit down, and I'm going to leave an industry with you. So my rehabilitation, I'm going to pump that 20 million back into the community, so that when the mine closes, the mine workers have got a job to do in this area. And the government said yes. In fact, I've been following progress with that project, and it's the Morola mine. And I want to see how it pans out. And I hope it's going to pan out, that it will be a model for all of us to look at. Administration of mineral rights, we should look at the administration of mineral rights. I think now at this conference, somebody has mentioned that we should have medium scale miners, etc. Now we have the big one, and then the small one, and then there's nothing in between. And what is below the small is also illegal, etc. We have to look at all those things. Monitoring role of government agencies. It is very important that we don't allow mining companies to do whatever they want to do to degenerate the environment. However, sometimes if you're working in a mining company, you see the monitoring agencies as people who are actually intimidating you. And I believe that these government agencies should rather have promotional rules as well. What we are saying is that don't stop monitoring them, but it should not be intimidating. We should be promoting. To be sincere with ourselves, gold is all over the world. And it's the encouragement that you give them, an investor, that will let that company come to Ghana or West Africa. And then we have to look at, when there's an issue, we have to look at it technically and not based on sentiments, and not based on because there's a law and how to apply the law. Look at the technical debate and how we can modify to ensure that we have sustenance. A typical one is what I said earlier, that the law says go and cover the waste dump. By all means, go and, but look at the The mining companies themselves and the chamber. The companies should ensure that mining inputs and services of local origin to the maximum extent possible. And when we say local, we mean local. Now we are seeing a lot of foreign metamorphosed companies registered in Ghana. And when the deposit is finished, you will not see a trait of that company in Ghana again. That is not the local I'm looking for. We are looking for proper local inputs. And there are a lot of research on the table. Nobody has picked it up. And we all know that research without entrepreneurial input will always be on the table. We have got coconut on our shores. We use activated carbon in our gold plants. We have academicians who have done the research. So why are we importing activated carbon? It's a question that we have to answer. Now, can the mining companies and the chamber say, okay, let us be the forefront entrepreneur, grow an entrepreneur, and sponsor that entrepreneur to be able to work on this? If we finish mining all the gold in Ghana and we can make activated carbon and sell, is this sustainable or not? And that is sustenance. And that's a typical example that I'm talking about. So we should make sure that mining inputs and services be of local origin to the maximum extent as possible. Obviously, you can't do everything, but let's make the effort. Training and localization, I don't want to talk much about it, but we all witness that the human resource that we generate in a country is so important. And one of the earlier speakers mentioned that if you go all over the world, you find Ghanaians elsewhere. It's because of this training that the earlier companies gave to their local manpower. Partnership and development of service providers from the local community and country as a whole. Something like bus rental. You don't need, excuse me to say, somebody from another region to come and supply bus rental to a community in a village. You can grow one over there. The mining companies should look at internship for young mining professionals, and it is very unfortunate that now I say we because I'm from the mining company, we look at internship for students as a favor, instead of considering it as offering practical training to professionals for the industry. In actual fact, you are training the person for yourself. We are training them for ourselves. It's not a favor to the universities. And that's what we can do to train manpower, so that one day, when we do not have the minds to operate, we have the services. I once asked, what does UK produce? There may be some few industries, but UK produces more services. And that is sustainable. If you go to Cameroon now, all the 10 mines are gone. But the consultancy services that are provided in that district still sustains that sort of environment. And so, training for young professionals, I believe, is part of the sustenance. Monumental projects. I mentioned the genes of traditional rulers and mining communities. Sometimes the thinking of our elders sometimes doesn't support sustainability. For a traditional ruler to come and tell a mining company that build my palace for me, do this for me, etc., I believe it's not. Why don't we tackle the community and say, hey, I've got $10. I want to build a vocational school. Can you please support me with $90? Or you say, I've got 10, you bring 10. The next time, okay, can you add 10? And I think every mining company will be happy to support that, other than spending on recurrent expenditure. And so the local community should build consensus with companies to maximize benefits, and not always contention and contention. The local mining community to be involved in mining companies' community development program. This is being done, but I think we can do better. Currently, we do a budget with the community, but still, I think more can be done in this area. So that whatever project we do is something, after 100 years, yes, there was a mining company in this town, and this is what we've done. Formation of business entities to supply services to the company. I think I've mentioned that. Sometimes when the mining companies want to look for somebody to deal with, personal interests, etc. Now, I think the community themselves can form business entities. They say, hey, this service, we are forming an entity, and we're going to supply this service on a competitive basis. Though. The development program should be forward-looking and not only focus on present. And share of mineral royalties to be applied to undertake infrastructure. I think that place, nobody wants to go there. The royalties that go to traditional chiefs. But we should go there. They are holding that royalty on our behalf, and they should release it for infrastructural projects that will remind everyone that there was a mine in this area and it has gone, but the royalties were used for this. They are diverting the money, but I believe that they should not be using the money on recurrent expenditure. The money should be invested into the monumental projects. So the Business Assembly should focus on monumental projects from the royalties that they get from the mineral royalties, other than spending it on recurrent expenditure. Currently, what is happening is that they use it to pay salaries, they use it to paint offices, whatever their recurrent expenditure is. And when you go to a mining company, you don't see anything, and the pressure is on mining companies. And I think it would be fair that they also should invest into it. The assembly should participate in environmental management of the companies through their district environmental committees. The EPA is doing their part, but I believe the local environmental committees of the assemblies can also keep an eye, because when you are saying sustainability, the first point that we made is that the mineral should be extracted safely, and that could include environmental issues. So the assemblies should be involved in that as well. The next is our workers' union. For me, I see my workers as my partners, and they are not my opponents. I believe the union should also see it that way. Union should put efficiency drive on the agenda, noting that efficiency drives sustainability. And I dare to say that all of us are working hard, but sometimes some of us are failing the companies. And when we talk about the cost of doing business is high, it's not just only the salary that we pay to people, but how much the person is putting into the job. And if you pay an employee and he doesn't put in much in terms of efficiency, we are not going to run the mine profitably, and therefore sustainability will be out of the window. The unions also should manage the expectations of the employees to ensure that demands are also within sustainable limits and not kill the egg that lays the golden eggs. Yes, I have to eat, the worker has to eat, everybody has to eat, so we need reasonable service. But sometimes the demands is like, it's not printed, but if you read between the lines, yeah, you just give me what I'm entitled to. If you cannot operate tomorrow, that's not my business. And that is not sustainable. You are killing the hen that lays the golden eggs. Management and staff of mining companies. The shareholders have given us a property to manage, and the mining management should run the mine in compliance with local and national regulations. And we should employ best practice in managing the mines to ensure profitability. Once again, if there's no profitability, you cannot talk about sustenance. Because as for the mineral, you are taking it out, you are not going to replace it. So you have to be profitable so that you can invest in sustainable projects to replace the mineral you are taking. And the management to ensure priority is given to community in terms of employment to ensure that skills are transferred into the locality. Every mining company will say we do it, but I think we can do better. Once again, I had an opportunity to set up a mine outside Ghana, and the CEO was very emphatic. He drew his circles. You may think it's discriminatory, but his circles were clear. My first level of employment team comes from the local. The communities that are affected. If you don't get a skill there, then you go to the region. If you don't get it there, then you go to the national. If you don't get it there, you go expatriate, but even expatriate look at West Africa. So there we have two classes of expatriates. West Africa expatriate, you've got priority over outside West Africa. And that was clearly stated. So you go and buy a more than $1 million dump truck, and he tells you, go and train somebody who doesn't know even where the clutch in the car is. Train him or her, and it worked. I must admit that, I'm confirming that for the period I was there, we did not have any accident due to a new employee throwing a dump truck away. Because the man is keen, he doesn't take chances, because he knows that a multi-dollar machine is what he has been given, and he puts in all the diligence to operate it. And so, I can say that about 90% of the operators come from the community. What sort of sustenance is this? You have planted skill in the area. If they use it well, they will also go into the outside world. to operate dump trucks elsewhere if they are required, or to be engineers or plant operators elsewhere. And that is what we should also be looking at. We should do more than what we are doing now. The NGOs and civil organizations, the best thing to do is to think they should provide credible alternative policy proposals. Once again, I worked on a mine, and then an NGO came outside the country. An NGO came and he said, hey, Mr. So-and-so. And then an NGO came outside the country. An NGO came and he said, hey, Mr. So-and-so, you are the boss of this mine, second in command, and you are allowing, say allowing the whites, that's what he said. You are allowing the whites to come and steal your property and mine, etc., etc. And that NGO came from the USA. So the man listened to this lady, he spoke and spoke and spoke. And then this deputy general manager said, okay, madam, I like your preaching. Please, this mine employs 1,000 people. And you know, it was a Malian with got big families, the average of 10. So each one is looking after 10 people. So you are looking about 11 people, 11,000. If you can give me visa for 11,000 people to your country, I will advocate for this mine to be closed. And the lady picked up her baggage and left. She didn't have any alternative. Just close the mine, and what do the people eat? And rather than bringing an alternative to the table, and that's what I'm talking about. So they should make useful contributions towards sustainable development of the mineral deposits. And an association like ours, the WAIMM, can also have an input like what we're doing, so that we have sustenance. We've spoken a lot about women. Our famous politician said that if you train a man, you train an individual. But if you train a woman, you train what? A nation. I would say you train generations. I'll add to that. So what we are doing today, and all the chat about the women, if you can champion it, it's also sustenance. If you can empower the women in our local communities, I believe that's also sustenance. So in conclusion, all the minerals are finite resources. We could harness it as a sustainable manner, in a sustainable manner, to improve our current life and that of the future. Remember that. You don't buy Benz today, and your grandchild cannot buy Benz because you have taken all the resources. You should make sure that you leave him something, or him or her something, that he could buy. What is higher than Benz? I'm not a fan of cars. The latest model of Benz. And all stakeholders should have an outlook of achieving monumental projects that will improve the lifestyle of future generations. Thank you.
For this sustainability topic, the speaker basically dealt with the topic sustainability of the mining industry. And I'm not going to come back here to summarize all that he said because it's just one speaker. But basically, he has given us an alternative for us to have quality of life into the future. That is what I have taken from this lecture. That we must have quality of life now and into the future for our generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would allow about a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to just make a small contribution and ask one or two questions to my very good friend, Mr. Ndede. Well, after being in the mining industry in the 70s up to now, one thing I am seeing is that the mines are not interested in research, or any research that they do is imported, so that when they say they are using a liner and this is the amount of permeability that has to be allowed, they just import it from outside and then implement. That is the regulators. And for the mining industry to be able to have homegrown policies, research must go into those policies. For example, we talk about waste rock, which could be used as aggregates for road construction or for building. It is possible, but it must be backed by research. And the operators and regulators must understand research. For example, one mine in Takwa requested that we do a bleach material. After they have rinsed it and then they purged and rinsed it, whether it could be used as a building material. It was given to us. We found that it was possible to use as a building material. They did a toxicity studies, did by Atomic Energy Commission, but the regulators say no, it must be covered and revegetated. This cannot make mining sustainable, because research has proven that this material can be used as building material. So if you need further studies, you can continue to do further studies, but just to bring a caveat that it cannot be used, then we have a problem. So research and development must be encouraged by all the mining companies. The chamber can, the mining companies through the chamber can have a fund where they can task homegrown or local research institutes to carry out research so that we can make mining sustainable. Then about regulation. Sometimes I talk to some of the investors and some of the operators, the consultants in the mining industry, and the idea is that there is competition to regulate the mining industry. You know, the agencies, just name them, and more keep on coming. People just sit down, politicians just sit down, and they think about, why don't you go to the mines for money? Then they form a commission, and the commission thinks that they have to regulate the mining industry because that's where the money is coming from. Then all these regulatory agencies must come under one umbrella. Fine, we need an environmental permit, you need a water permit, you need a hydrological permit, you need a forestry permit, whatever permit that you need. But let it come under professionals like us, who have been trained. When Professor talked about the training that people get, after all, who are the people in those agencies? They are also mining engineers, they are geological engineers, they are surveyors from trained in mining industry who are in those regulatory areas, and they tend to compete with each other to regulate the mining industry. And when that happens, mining can never be sustainable, because when this is added to the cost, the investor will fold up. Finally, before I sit down, our traditional rulers are our worst enemies. The traditional, for mining to be sustainable, land should be taken from the traditional rulers and put somewhere so that they do not interfere in mining. The presenter just talked about the royalties. Royalties, can you go and ask the king who owns this mine and that mine, he owns all of it? Can you go and ask him that where is the money? But we are asking Anglo, look at Johannesburg, so many years of mining, Anglo, so where are the royalties? So for mining to be sustainable, there must be a land policy that is equitable. Even though government has mineral rights, land is something that we should also tackle. So I just want to end here and thank you for your wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.
Dr. Charles, thank you for your contribution. Do you have any comments on that? The speaker hasn't got any comments on that, but it's worth noting that research is not basically taken into consideration not only in the mining industry, but in all industries across the country, even as well as social science research. I mean, a country that does not look at research is not interested in development. So until Ghana starts taking research seriously, there's no way that we can develop. And I think that is coming out clearly. And one of the things you also mentioned was the cost area and land policy. I think WAIMM will have to take all these notes into account and then look at how we can present alternative solutions. Because one of the things of sustainability, as the speaker said, was to provide alternative solutions. As engineers, who are basically developers of the future, unless we provide alternative solutions and then impact on regulation. And one of the things I said earlier on was to impact on regulation. We cannot do anything. So one of the things that we have to do is WAIMM will have to start looking at that as well. Some more.
I can talk of what I know, that is go first.
Formerly, there was this TBB what do you call it? Heap leach material that we used to even give to workers for them to use in building. And then you see these regulators coming in that, hey, you can't do that, you have to cover this, you have to do that, you have to do that. But this is where the company now goes in to even consult some of these research institutes to even conduct research into the material itself. Because layman idea, we were using it to build. That is what we were using to mold most of the blocks that we were using, the workers were using to build. But the regulator will just kind of stop. And sometimes you begin to ask yourself, are we inimical to ourselves? At a point in time, the company wanted even somebody to come waste material to crash the waste material and sell. And then these regulators, the things that they will put in line will just put that maybe local guy who is coming with some few cities to come in, it will just keep the person out of
business. Because for him to do all those things that they want him to do, at the end of the day, you see that the capital that you have to even inject into the project itself is already gone.
So I think that some of our regulators, our institutions should be up and doing. They should be up and doing. But I also want to touch on the labor issue. Ghana, one thing I've seen is that when I'll say the mining industry goes into, let's say, limbo, they usually, first thing they have to look is labor, cutting labor numbers and all that. But we think that, some of us think that gold that is mined in Ghana is the same gold mined in Johannesburg, the same gold mined in Perth and Brisbane. But when it comes to salary, salaries, we trumpet the salaries of workers as if it is more than whatever is paid elsewhere. But these same people, as we are saying, these same professionals you are talking about, most of the guys who were working, I know a lot of them that we were working with in Gophers. They are now in Australia and elsewhere, taking, would I say, about 100% of what if they were to be working in Ghana. Even some of them, as Dr. Obin said, some of them we want to bring most of these people back. And because of what they want to be paid, we are shying off. But out there, they are being paid the same amount. So it is not that workers don't want to work. And one of the things that I learned from one of my colleagues who is here, Gordon, I was with him in the same place. But when he went out to work, he was being paid so much. But he tells you, yes, bruh, you will sweat it out. You see, so it's time that we begin to see ourselves as professionals, being paid professional value, and then being demanded professional output. And I think that is what will set this productivity issue at bay. Then we all know that you are given 10 cities, you make sure that you bring out an output equivalent to 10 cities. Thank you.
Atamula David, a graduate from the University of Mines and Technology. My question is about sustainability as Mr. Ndede presented. I don't know whether when the government institutes certain policies as in high taxes of the mining company, that will make us attain that sustainability that we want, or when they rather reduce the taxes on the companies that will achieve that sustainability that we need. Because I know if they tax more, that means the country will get more money and maybe they invest in other sectors, which will definitely also cripple the mining industry. And if they also tax less, then that means the country also lose. So I don't know whether we should go in which direction that will also give us the sustainability that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll get the speaker to answer the two questions. And the first contribution was to look at the role of regulators and whether they are inimical to us or they are supposed to be promoters, which you mentioned. And then the second question basically looked at the role of tax to sustainability.
Thank you, Chairman. With respect to the role of the monitoring agencies, in the presentation, I shared similar sentiments. Unfortunately, they are not here, but one, they've got a role to play. Obviously, if you've got cyanide-laden material that you're going to use to produce bricks, there may be long-term impact. But I think we are all on the same pedestal, on the same platform, that you don't just say, because of that, let's cover it. What can we do about it? And that's where research that Dr. Kayule mentioned comes in. So it looks like we are going around, but the real issue is that we have to research and we have to debate technically, not on sentiments. I think sometimes the sentiments are higher than the technical considerations, so that we all arrive at one thing. There's an area in Takwa called cyanide. And I suppose it was where the old miners dumped their tailings. You can see the grass and then the sand to be fine over there. That's why now we have building. You may argue that it has taken several decades. But what can we do? And so it's a joint effort. The unfortunate thing is that if I take one of us over here who are all talking about it, and I establish and put you into one of the monitoring institutions, you come and do the same thing. And so we will have to basically change our thinking as professionals in this industry and put on the cap of sustenance. And all of us have got a role to play. We are not saying allow the mining company to do whatever they want to do, but let's debate the issues technically. So we agree perfectly with you. With respect to workers, I don't want us to go into workers' negotiation now. But we've got technology, and we've got other things that drive the structure of pay. And I also mentioned that if you take at most of the minerals, they are littered almost everywhere in the world. So why will I leave my country and come to your country? It's because there's something there. And so sometimes you have to lower the bar to attract them. The unfortunate thing though is that the locals, and I think when we talk about the mining regulations, etc., and they're looking at mining rights, the locals don't invest in big mining companies. The reason, I don't know. But it's not only in mining companies, even in other aspects of the economy. All the time we look for outside. I believe if we went into some of these things as locals, it will take out the hands of foreigners. And then we see the impact of salaries. So, as I said, I don't want us to go into that area, but the mechanism of salaries and technology and investment, etc., there's some correlation and it's a complex network. The key is that we should not kill the hen that lays the egg. And most union leaders know, gone are the days when the union leaders didn't know much. They are very intelligent, they know what is what is behind the numbers, and they know that this company is struggling, and yet still they are pressing hard. What will happen? The investor will pull the pin and go. With respect to tax, it's also another complex issue. I'm not a tax expert, but taxes are managed by tax experts in one way or the other. The unfortunate thing is that just like the monitoring agencies are looking for money from the mining companies, the government is also seeing the mining companies as a major source of income. So giving a tax relief is sometimes difficult. But somebody made an analysis this morning. You can defer all the tax and make sure that you have a mine that employs people and can get the tax from the payee. I worked on a particular mine that was struggling. And what I heard from the monetary agencies who came with the minister and advised him was that this mine has not been paying tax. And so it's not contributing to the economy. I sat and said, why are these people not advising the minister properly? For me, if I had 100 of those mines in the country who can employ and then take out the so-called unemployment association out, and they can pay payee, I will encourage them to continue, because they solve one of your problems for you. So it's a complex issue, and I don't think I'm that competent to deal with that situation. Thank you.
I'll take one or two more questions if there are any. Can we send a mic to the table, please?
My name is Prince Gazy. I was formerly at Ashanti Gold Fields of WAIC. I worked there for 31 years. When I went, we were having only Pompora treatment plant. That was built in 1940. So you can imagine the technology in 1940. We generate the gold material in the sulfide, then they use wood to roast the material, and the arsenic was going into the air. When I went and we were having Pompora treatment plant, Obuasi had run from 1896 to around, I went there in 1984. But we started treating the tailings material. We built another plant called TTP, tailings treatment plant. And we were treating the material. The recovery was 25%. When I went to Obuasi, gold price was $850 an ounce in 84. It started going down until it reached about 230 around the year 2000. But when we built TTP, within 6 months we have recovered the amount we used to build TTP. So we're not concerned about getting 25% recovery. But when gold price started shooting up, then when the metallurgists meet, then they will say, no, this is not right, this is not right. And in 1996, when we wrote the 100 years of Obuasi book, there were a lot of things inside that explain different things that are happening on Obuasi land. That I don't know whether when we were in school they didn't have that knowledge to even impart it to us before we went into the mine. So we must make effort to write whatever we are seeing on each mine. Put them down. Right now, when I went to Obuasi, there was something like internet. But we have internet to do all the information and put them right there. And when we built TTP in 1990, around the 91, 92, we started with heap leach. Then we built oxide treatment plants until we realized that the burning of the sulfur was not right. So we have to bring bacteria technology, and then we built sulfide treatment plant to run it. We have run the sulfide treatment plant for 23 years. And we have realized that doing maintenance on the tanks and all those things was costing us more than necessary. So we have rebuilt the CIF plant and rebuilt the flotation plant with about $220 million. The time we built the STP, the tonnage fed to the plant was 6,000 tons. But when we rebuilt, we changed the tons to 8,000 tons. Underground, bringing the tons was only 3,000, 4,000. So the situation in Obuasi, which has stopped, is this particular one. You have built the plant for 8,000 and they are bringing 3,000, 4,000. I asked my colleagues if they slash your salary by 50%, will you agree? They said no. Then I said we have to do something drastic to change the picture in Obuasi. When Anglo came in 2004, they said they were at 200 level in underground. When they talk about 200 level, like every 100 feet underground is one level. So we in Obuasi, after 100 years, we have just done 50 levels. And they have done 200 level in South Africa. So they said they will change Obuasi to that from 2004. They brought refrigeration equipment to underground. That when you go underground, you feel the temperature like this place. So you can work up to your maximum. When we had rebuilt the plant, and they were bringing 3,000, 4,000 tons, management was arguing in different ways. So we have to ask the right questions at every time to understand. I've been in charge of chemicals since I went to Obuasi. We have been changing chemicals, and even cyanide has been used for 100 years will be thrown away. Another chemical is coming. So there are things that are happening in the world. We must let the students know, search for them, research in them, and do the right thing. When the STP was being built, the chief process metallurgist at the STP asked me, Prince, I'm a mineral processing engineer. So he asked me, do you know another chemical apart from cyanide? So I told him tauria. By that time, tauria was part of the things they were trying to use to take the cyanide off. When we use the tauria in the metallurgical laboratory, all the stirrers, they withered off. So it means they need proper stainless steel if you are using tauria. So we must ask the right questions and ask the right questions concerning the right things to do it. Okay. Right now, Tausulfate has been chosen. And if you go to Gold Strike plant in Nevada, they run 13,400 tons a day. Of what we are looking for only 8,000. And they are using Tausulfate. They poured their first gold in 2014. So cyanide is being moved away. And we must ask the questions to know what can be done. We were using cyanide boxes to load. When you use activated carbon, it breaks into pieces. So we were, from 1993, we started packing them into cyanide boxes and sending them to plants outside. What I'm trying to explain is, in the mineral industry, we must ask questions about why this is there, why this is there, why are we not doing this, what can we do about this? There are why, what, which way can we do about this? How can we go about this process? Those are the questions you ask as engineers in the mineral industry.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Peter Aroja from the University of Mines and Technology. A little contribution with respect to the tax issue, and also one beautiful statement I've heard, monumental project. Now, for sustainability, we're thinking that when the government takes the taxes, they will diversify into other, activities, economic activities. But then if, as citizens, we see it not forthcoming, then we need to lobby. And I'll use the royalty issue. Royalty and this corporate social responsibility issues. We've seen that the royalty doesn't touch base. The assemblies, whether metropolitan, whatever, they are not doing what it takes for the mining communities to develop. So I always advocate that the chamber, the chamber stands for all the mining companies, lobby such that instead of the 5%, 2% will be, the government may take 3%, and 2% may go into their corporate social responsibility activities. Because right now they are talking of, it's becoming a model, $1 per ounce, then plus 2% of the royalty. Then they will be responsible, because when they are leaving, they need a legacy. And I hope someday this will come to reality, so that the mining companies will be proud of having left this monumental project in the mining communities than this kind of benevolent CSR going on with just some schools and toilet, boreholes, and community center. We want monumental projects. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute to you.
Thank you, Aroja. Thank you, Aroja. Thank you, Prince. And I'll ask the speaker to take these two questions in tandem and respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I think the first speaker, our brother Prince, the emphasis is that we should ask. And I believe that is more related to research. We should research into things, and we should also document whatever we are doing. And I believe that as up to what we talk about professionalism in the industry, we should look at that. On the lobbying, I see that in this country we left the mining industry to be an orphan. Being that every lobbying, we want to leave it to the chamber itself. Yes, the chamber has got a lobbying role, but what about civil society and a group like us? When laws are being passed in Parliament, all professionals have an input. In Ghana, it's the chamber and the lawyers. The mining, the geologists, the etc. do have an input. So I believe the lobbying should be us sitting here, and one should champion it. Once we establish ourselves as a competent professional body, the government will listen to us. Sometimes when I hear on radio and people rallying as specialists in the mining industry, and you listen to what they are talking about, they don't even know what historical ratio is, and they are just talking. So it is up to us. So, Prof, the chamber will do some part, but let's not orphan the chamber. Let other professionals and civil society support and lobby. Thank you.
Being told, and I think it's been hammered, that we can only effect change ourselves. And one of the three things I said was, the last one was impact. We can only impact on what is being done by ourselves. What we have done is we've conformed the regulations, and therefore regulators are taking us for granted maybe. We have tried innovation, but we have not sold our innovation far enough, and therefore our research is sitting on the shelves. What is left to us is to impart and show an impact in what we do. And that is why the WAIMM is needed, because that is where our impact is going to be felt. And our impact must not just be left up to another WAIMM, that we've got WAIMM and that's the end. Every person in the industry is part of this process. Everybody in the industry, wherever, in each corner that you are part of the process to impact on the mining industry's change. We have set ourselves on the path of change, a path of influence, a path of research. And until we can, what the Bible says, renew your mind. Until we can renew our mind, we cannot have any change. So the industry must start renewing the way it thinks, the way it does business. We are not just in to mine gold. We are in to influence the economy. We are in to influence Ghana, and that must be our role. Our role is not just to mine gold. We have too short when we say that, because the purpose of gold is to change the economy. So our role is to influence the economy. We must be the people who are lawyers. We must be the people who are geologists. We must be the people who are administrators. And we must be the CEOs of various companies that will influence the economy. And until we take that role, there is no way that we can impact on the economy. And WAIMM is only a medium that we'll use. And let's all embrace it carefully and use it. Thank you all for coming.
From this moment, life has begun. From this moment,